You want to know what I was for Halloween this year? A happily married man. Get it? Because on Halloween you're supposed to dress up as something you're not. Anyway, make sure you watch to the very end of this video for a spooky Halloween surprise. The video will start right after this. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings. The NFL is gearing up for yet another week of action on the field. I've partnered up with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, to get you close to the action, and you do not want to miss out. Right now, new customers can play free for a shot at their share of huge cash prizes with their first deposit of a minimum of $5. With that first deposit of $5, new customers can play for a share of millions in total prizes. You heard that right. New customers can get in on the action right now with an initial deposit of just $5. To play, just draft your roster and those players earn points based on their in-game performance. So, what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings app now. New customers use my promo code BarryM and play free for a share of millions in total prizes with just a $5 deposit on the DraftKings app. Once again, that's promo code BarryM only at DraftKings. Buffalo versus Tampa Bay. The game started out the way many expected, with Buffalo going up 10-0 before Tampa Bay fought back after leeching off of short fields set up by their defense. What is this, the 2020 playoffs? Am I right? With the game tied at 10 and Dawson Knox missing the game, Josh Allen found another random white tight end to put Buffalo up by 7, while Tampa's offense did nothing. Buffalo then went up by 2 scores, which is where it stayed for most of the game until Baker Mayfield threw a manly touchdown pass with about 3 minutes left to Mike Evans and to deflect the 2-point conversion to make it a 6-point game. Despite all odds, the Buccaneers would get one last shot with a Hail Mary to the end zone, and it just kind of died. It wasn't even deflected. I mean, geez, this really could have been caught. It just landed right next to Godwin. Wow. Buffalo escaped to go to 5-3, but not a very impressive win for a supposed juggernaut team, in my opinion. Great job in disgracing franchise legend O.J. Simpson's legacy, Bills. The Miami Gay Sharks versus New England. Tua turned the ball over, made an appearance early, and the Patriots actually capitalized on it to go up 7-0. But it was only a matter of time before Miami got going, as Tua found child respecter Tyreek Hill to tie the game, and then threw a laser to put Miami up 7. Mac Jones played about a game and a half of good football before throwing this fucking terrible interception to Jalen Ramsey. Hey, remember him? Miami used it to go up by 10 at halftime, but they fumbled deep in their own territory to keep New England's chances alive. Unfortunately, Mac Jones stinks and was not able to get a touchdown out of it, but they did get a field goal. But Miami did what good teams do, which is respond with a touchdown to make it a 14-point game again, which is where it stayed until about 8 minutes in the fourth when Mac Jones, famous responsible driver, found Doo-Doo Smith Poopster to cut it to 7. In the Brady era, this is usually when the defense would come up with a stop and give the offense the ball back, but this is a new day. And Tua fired a laser into a super tight window to Jalen Waddle, one of the most impressive touchdown passes you'll ever see, to make it 31-17, and then really Mac Jones just kind of shit his pants as to be expected, to send the Patriots to 2-6 and to improve the Dolphins to 6-2. Minnesota versus Green Bay. It was a bittersweet day in Skull Land. They thoroughly dominated the terrible Packers, who look like they've made a mistake in investing 3 years into Jordan Love. This game was never really close at any point, after about midway through the third quarter when the Vikings went up 17-3, which only lasted a little while until they went up 24-3 on an amazing touchdown pass from Kirk Cousins to Jordan Addison. Once again, Jordan Love really didn't do anything until third or fourth quarter when the game was already out of hand, throwing a touchdown to make it 24-10, and he would get plenty of chances to lead another ferocious comeback like he did against the Saints. He got a blocked field goal, but it wasn't enough. Even after Kirk Cousins left the game with what was a season-ending Achilles injury, he wasn't able to get the Packers into the end zone, leading to a disappointing 24-10 loss for Green Bay. And ironically enough, a disappointing 24-10 win for Minnesota, because now their season isn't bad enough to where they can tank for the first overall pick, but they're not good enough to be contenders, especially without Kirk Cousins now. They signed Josh Dobbs, but let's be real, that doesn't mean anything. It's fitting that Kirk Cousins once again ends the season with great stats and a 500 record. Eagles versus Commandos. For some reason, Sam Howell just loves playing great against the Eagles, which made this game much more difficult than it needed to be from an Eagles fan perspective. Washington went up 14-3 early before the Eagles fumbled inside the 4-yard line for the first of 2 times on the day. The first time by Kenneth Gainwell, which is an ironic last name because he doesn't gain yards well. Fortunately, Washington remembered that they're Washington, and A.J. Brown remembered that he's A.J. Brown and made a ridiculous one-handed catch to cut it to 4, temporarily until Washington went up by 7 at halftime. Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball on the goal line just to make things more difficult, but once again, it didn't amount to anything. inning before Hurts then found A.J. Brown once again to tie it at 17, but it only lasted for a little while before Howell threw a nice pass to put Washington up 7. But Jalen Hurts was not to be denied as he threaded the needle on this amazingly difficult throw to Devonta Smith to tie it at 24. Finally, the real Sam Howell came out, throwing a terrible interception to a white safety, which is basically worth 5 interceptions, as I've said before, setting up the Eagles in great position, which they capitalized on with 97-year-old Julio Jones catching a fucking touchdown pass. I fainted when I saw this. Honorary Eagle Terry McLaurin then dropped a couple passes. Howell fumbled. Oh, look, it's a tush push. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not. Fake out. Washington would then score another touchdown on this great throw to make it 38-31, but the onside kick failed. Eagles improved to 7-1, best record in the NFL through 8 weeks. We're winning the fucking Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Kitties versus Pittsburgh. If there's one thing the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do, it's make every game they play in ugly as fuck, no matter what. And this game was no exception. It was rainy, the offenses didn't show up, Kenny Kitten Mittens got hurt, Mitch Trubisky came on, and yet until the very end, it seemed as though the Steelers had a chance to win, as they are one to do. Jacksonville went up by a couple scores, but guess what? The Steelers cut it to a score with a George Pickens touchdown. I swear to God, every good play I see with the Steelers happens when they throw to George Pickens. Their entire offense should just be throwing to George Pickens all the time. As is the law, the Steelers had a chance to tie the game despite how terrible they were playing, and it didn't matter because Trubisky threw a terrible interception, although it was down the field, so it was kind of manly, I guess, before Jacksonville kicked a field goal to go up 20-10, which is where the final score would rest, as Trubisky threw a pretty sad Hail Mary, which resulted in another interception that killed his stats. Somehow, the Steelers are 4-3, and the Jaguars are 6-2. What a weird season this is. The Dallas Cowgirls versus Rams. This game was never really close. Dallas got up early, and then Stat Padford helped out their cause. Hey, did you know that he played Little League Baseball with Clayton Kershaw and they went to high school together? Wow. And did you also know that Stafford has 106 career losses and is only 35, and the NFL record for most losses is 123, so if Stafford plays another 3 or 4 years, he's really going to end with the most losses ever by a starting quarterback. I'm just talking as the Cowboys beat the shit out of him, even though Dak mixed in an interception just to be nice. It was 33-3 at one point before Stafford finally started to get going, and they scored just before halftime. Stafford would then leave the game after doing a terrible impression of the Philly special, but hey, it counted. And that was as close as it ever got. Dallas kicked a field goal, LA's offense did nothing, and then Dallas went up 43-17 before LA kicked one of the saddest field goals ever, although it might not be that sad if you were a guy that had the over. Cowboys are 6-2. This has the potential, and I don't say this lightly, to be the best Cowboys team to not make the conference championship. And that's saying a lot because they never make the conference championship. Saints versus Horseshoes. The Colts scored first on a touchdown, but on this day, Derek Carr actually played pretty well as the entire Saints offense, as septum-piercing enthusiast and Las Vegas brawler Alvin Kamara scored to tie it at 7. The game was pretty tightly contested for the most part. Mormon Tebow scored a touchdown to make it a 3-point game. Then Mr. Eyeliner threw a deep touchdown pass to give the Saints a lead, which they kept going into halftime. Gardner Minshew threw an awkwardly hilarious interception in the end zone, which the Saints capitalized on to go up by 8. You cannot convince me that Tim Tebow couldn't have had Taysom Hill's career. Minshew lost the game, but he had this insane touchdown throw to cut it to 8 with about 8 minutes left. But the Colts never really threatened as Carr sealed the game with another deep pass, a beautiful throw, before the Saints kicked the game-winning field goal to win by 11. A pretty entertaining game, yet pretty forgettable, as neither of these teams are really going anywhere. Carolina versus Houston. The battle between the first 2 picks in the previous draft went about as you would expect, as both offenses stunk, although CJ Stroud has been really good this year, and I'm surprised they lost this game. Houston had a 7-0 lead early. Carolina would get back to 7-6, although they missed the extra point, but have no fear, they would kick a 3-pointer, and then another 3-pointer to go up 12-7. CJ Stroud, who looks like one of the calves with large eyes from South Park, then snuck it in himself to give Houston a lead heading into the fourth quarter, but it was only a 1-point lead, and that was all the offense for Houston. Although Carolina would go on an impressive drive, which ended with a game-winning piggyback field goal to give Carolina their first win of the season. I'm still not that impressed by what I've seen from Bryce Young, but he can now say he has more wins than Christian Hackenberg. That booster seat has finally paid off. Houston Oilers versus the Dirty Birds. Let's check in on Malik Willis. Yeah, he sucks. This game will always be remembered as the Will Levis game, as he ended up throwing 4 touchdown passes, most of which were aired out deep downfield like a man. He's taking the breakup very, very well. I'm sure his ex-girlfriend sent him a "Hey Big Head" text after the game. This game was also noteworthy for the Falcons benching DoorDash sponsor Desmond Ridder and replacing him with Taylor Heinicke Heineke. But honestly, the highlights of this game are great. 3 of Will Levis's 4 touchdown passes went to DeAndre Hopkins. Again, do not Google DeAndre Hopkins hotel room. Just don't do it, okay? Heineke played pretty well in relief, and Bijan Robinson scored his first career rushing touchdown. The Falcons had a chance to win the game at the end after Will Levis took a sack, no offense to Taylor Swift. But unfortunately, the 4th and 1 pass was dropped. Very disgusting decision by Heineke to hit his receiver in the hands. Everybody knows you have to hit him in the penis if you want to catch the pass. I would say that the Ryan Tannehill era in Tennessee is over. What do I know? I'm just a shitposting YouTuber. The Battle of New Jersey. If Amy Schumer was a football game, this would be her. There were something like 23 or 24 punts in this game, and even the touchdowns were check down passes and boring ass runs. I mean, this game was absolute dog shit, which is what you'd come to expect when you have 2 teams from New Jersey. Tyrod Taylor once again died, although this time it wasn't because of a trainer. So the Giants were playing something called Tommy DeVito, and we all know Zach Wilson's garbage. Wilson was so bad that he took a terrible sack on 4th and 10 down 3 with a minute and a half left, and it looked as though the game was over, but the Giants missed a field goal with a kicker who supposedly needs surgery. Now, I don't know why the kicker is still playing if he needs surgery, but whatever. And then Zach Wilson turned into Patrick Mahomes for a couple plays to send the game into overtime. The Giants obviously did nothing with the ball. A defensive pass interference penalty then set up the Jets for an easy game-winning field goal. Xerxes versus Alex Jones. Both these teams suck, although as an Eagles fan, I will always laugh at the Giants losing. Much like the Steelers, I do not know how the Jets are 4-3. The Ponies versus the Chiefs. Nobody, and I mean nobody, beats the Denver Broncos 17 times in a row and gets to live to tell about it. 16 times? That's a different story. But anyway, the Broncos finally, for the first time since 2015, defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in a football game. How long ago was that? September 2015. Peyton Manning was the Broncos starting quarterback, and Kevin Durant was still playing for Oklahoma City, and he still had his dignity. Yeah, it's been a while. Even still, I wouldn't even say Denver necessarily played great in this game. It was just Kansas City was terrible, and their lack of receiving talent really showed up at the wrong time. For all the talk about how stacked Mahomes' receivers are, if you really look at them after Travis Kelce, their receiving core sucks, and it played out on special teams too, as Mecole Hardman's muffed punt set up a touchdown that put the Chiefs down 12, and then Sky Moore dropped a beautiful touchdown throw from Mahomes on 4th down, which would have made it a 5-point game. Then Mahomes comically ran into his own lineman, which set up a 4th and long, down 12. Mahomes said, fuck this, somebody's down there, and he threw a garbage time interception. Mahomes' numbers this year aren't that great, or at least not Mahomes' caliber, or what we were expecting. Honestly, the worst thing about this is that Taylor Swift wasn't there, and now we're going to have to hear about how Taylor Swift is the reason the Chiefs are good. This game was played in Colorado, so it is possible, I guess, that Mahomes was high on the marijuana during the game. The Seattle Sea Chickens versus the Cleveland Browns. Grover Cleveland missed the game, and Seattle went up 14-0 early, making it appear like it was going to be a blowout before Cleveland finally came back to make it 14-7 before Seattle kicked field goal to go up 10. Arena League quarterback PJ Walker threw terrible interception and really was just bad the entire game. But still, somehow the Browns were only down 3 at halftime. And not just that, they tied the game and even took a lead for most of the 4th quarter. They had a chance to seal the game, and all they had to do was not throw an interception or have a turnover deep in their own territory, and guess what? They threw a fucking interception, which set up the Seahawks with great field position, and then Geno Smith threw a Tom Brady-esque game-winning touchdown pass to Smith and Jigba, and then PJ Walker had a terrible 4th and 19 throw that fell incomplete to seal the loss for Cleveland, dropping them to 4-3, and improving Seattle to 5-2, although they're Seattle and they're on the West Coast, and Geno Smith's their quarterback, so nobody really gives a shit. They're basically the Starbucks-friendly version of the Steelers. 2 teams with bird mascots. Life goes so fast, the quarterback for Arizona in this video isn't even on the team anymore. Lamar Jackson continued his march towards his 2nd MVP. It is possible, don't laugh. While Joshua Dobbs, the pastronaut, played like shit. Congratulations, Minnesota. Baltimore was playing with their food for most of the game, but they finally started to pull away after a terrible Dobbs interception deep in Arizona territory, put them up 2 scores in the 4th quarter. Justin Tucker, who's not a Hall of Famer, stop booing, put Baltimore up by 3 scores with about 7 minutes left, and from that point on, it was stat padding time for Mr. Dobbs. Arizona cut it to 9, then Baltimore came right back with a touchdown of their own. There was some fun garbage time stuff, though. The Cardinals scored a touchdown, missed on the 2-point conversion, recovered the onside kick. Hey, Nelson Aguilar dropping a pass. Who would have predicted that? Kicking a field goal to make it a 7-point game, leading to a deceptively close final score, even though it was never close. And oh my God, Nelson Aguilar actually did catch this one. No offense to Brandon Bostic. Baltimore is 6-2, and as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy, they're a sleeper for the 1 seed in the AFC. Cincinnati Tigers versus San Francisco 49ers. 49ers. It looks like Joe Burrow is finally back, and the Brock Purdy fraud allegations continue. Despite this, it was a pretty competitive game for the most part. Cincy would go up 14-7. San Fran would cut that to 4 with a field goal. It looked as though Cincy was going to go up 11 just before halftime, but they fumbled deep in the red zone. They would get their lick back, though, going up 7. And then late in the third quarter, in the same end zone that Cincy had a bad turnover, Brock Purdy threw a terrible interception, and then another terrible interception just a couple minutes later, which set up Cincy with a Jamar Chase touchdown pass. What else is new? But San Francisco would not go down easily. Insert sex joke here. Christian McCaffrey had 2 daughter-dating approved touchdowns in this game, but it wasn't enough, as San Francisco would end up dropping their 3rd straight game to fall to 5-3. Life comes at you fast. No offense to porn stars who take facials. The Bengals might be back, but Skyline Chili still sucks ass. LA Batteries versus the Chicago Bears. Holy crap, a Bears quarterback completing a deep throw. You don't see that every day. Unfortunately, it didn't matter because the Chargers beat the shit out of Chicago in this game, and Justin Herbert finally played like he should play every game with great efficiency and a dominant win. This game was never close, and it was just as boring as you would expect. I mean, honestly, if the Chargers didn't win this game, then there would have been a lot of questions if Justin Herbert couldn't have beaten Division II quarterback. But he did, and the Bears are 2-6 with quarterback questions, and the Chargers are now 3-4. Are the Chargers good? I don't know. They're the Chargers. They're basically destined for another 9-8, 8-9 type of season. I don't think this win really told us anything about them or makes them a great team all of a sudden. Detroit versus Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're probably saying, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is so terrible and he sucks and he doesn't deserve to get all this money. Well, guess what? The only reason Jimmy Garoppolo looks bad is because his offensive line and teammates are purposely sabotaging him because their significant others probably shout, oh, Jimmy, when they're making love in bed and they're jealous and they're trying to make him look bad. Oh, and by the way, in the game, Jared Goff was pretty good. Jahmyr Gibbs was also really good. The only time this game got a little bit sketchy for Detroit was when Jared Goff had a terrible pick 6 to Marcus Peters, which made it a 2-point game. Devontae Adams had just 1 catch. I'm honestly surprised that he's still on the Raiders roster now after the trade deadline. Jahmyr Gibbs ran for a nice touchdown to make it a 9-point game, and really, the game never got any closer. The only reason this Jimmy loss isn't completely mentally devastating to me is because Dan Campbell was the victor. I mean, good lord, he's like fucking Sasquatch, only in human form. It's amazing. Holy shit. While I'm recording this, literally news just broke that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are both fired by the Raiders. Well, better them than Jimmy. My offensive player of the week goes to DeAndre Hopkins from Tennessee. 4 catches, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This famous hotel room respecter would not be denied. Defensive player of the week goes to Kayvon Thibodeau of the New Jersey Giants. Even though it was in a loss, 3 sacks, 9 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. The Giants probably should have won, but hey, they lost, so I'm laughing at it, but still, he played well. Biggest loser of the week, Vikings fans. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Your starting quarterback tore his Achilles, is now out for the season. You're 4-4, stuck in no man's land. Another year passes where you're not going to win that inevitable Super Bowl. Tom Brady check down pass of the week goes to Zach Wilson. For a game that had almost no offense, it's ironic that some of the only offense was a fucking terrible check down throw that was 50 yards of yak. Pure Brady. And in an upset of the ages, the puppy of the week is not Scooby, but it's actually Lester from the movie Halloween. This good boy was just doing his duty as a guard dog and trying to protect his family, but unfortunately, he ran into the evil force of nature that is Michael Myers and had his spine broken. Thankfully, it was just a movie and the dog wasn't actually harmed, but still, this was made 45 years ago, so the dog is long dead. Rest in peace, good boy. I told you all that at the very end of this video, I would have a surprise for you, and I did not forget about it. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy this incredible Halloween treat.